On the screen, you see several examples of magical elements that appear in fairy tales. Remember that they may include magical animals, like the donkey in Shrek, or other animals that talk in fairy tales, such as the talking mice in Cinderella, or some of the other characters like Iago in Aladdin. You also have magical people like the fairy godmother from Cinderella, and magical objects like Aladdin's lamp, the mystical rose from Beauty and the Beast, the glass slipper, and the poisoned apple that Snow White eats, as well as the magic mirror. Here are some examples of good protagonists like Tiana and some of the other Disney princesses who serve as the good character or the protagonist or the main character who have to overcome a challenge or an obstacle. And here are some of the examples of the antagonists. Remember, the antagonists are the evil creatures. So, for example, like Jafar or Maleficent or Lady Tremaine, who is the evil stepmother in Disney's Cinderella, or Ursula, or Hades, or Cruella de Vil. All of these serve as examples of villains or antagonists, those evil creatures. And then you have the helpers. Remember, we talked about everybody needing a helper, and that's why there are helpers in fairy tales, like the donkey from Shrek, or Flounder and Sebastian from The Little Mermaid, or Jacques and Gus from Cinderella, or Pascal from Tangled, or Olaf from Frozen, or the Seven Dwarfs from Snow White. All of these serve as helpers to the protagonist. Now we're going to focus on how to read and analyze a fairy tale. Our first fairy tale that we're going to look at is a version of Cinderella from the European French tradition, first penned in the 1600s by a man named Perrault. Now, this version is the version that most of us are most familiar with. And Cinderella is probably one of the most widely known fairy tales. There are more than 500 versions. The European one that we're the most familiar with is not the only version by far. In fact, we're going to read several versions from several different countries in several forms that are completely different, except they have some of the same elements. And we're actually going to look at some of those elements closely as we dissect them and analyze them. The oldest known Cinderella version is the Egyptian version, Rhodopsis, and it's more than 2,000 years old. Cinderella has appeared in tales of other languages and cultures, and the name translates to cinder fool or cinder slave, with the emphasis on the lowly work of scrubbing dirt, cinders, or ashes from the floors and the walls. And as I said, the European Cinderella, the version that we're going to read now, takes place in France in the 1600s.